Even with this year's free agency class, to me, not having the biggest names, at least in their primes, this summer has been pretty wild so far. Klay Thompson is gone. Never thought I would see that. Never thought any of those three players would ever put on another uniform, but it happened. And the divorce seemed ugly. A dynasty built over 15 years ago is officially over. If you started high school in 2015, you never had a year where you didn't see the Splash Brothers in the finals. That's how dominant they were. But the last month on and off the court, to me, really proved one thing. Both of the NBA's little brothers completely, and I mean historically, fumbled an entire decade. Since 2011, these are the players that both these franchises had in their uniforms at some point in time. Of course, some of these players were out of their primes when they played for these organizations, so the list can look a little disingenuous, but nobody can deny that with all these players and all these opportunities, one of these franchises should have at least one NBA championship, at least one. Instead, they have one conference finals appearance between the two of them. Even when success is presented at their front doorstep, it's like they still manage to have the most epic collapses. It's like they're born to fail. Today's video is sponsored by SeatGeek. The NBA season is officially gone, but the WNBA is here and the NFL is approaching. I know me personally, I want to catch a few Ravens games, and that's why I want to talk about SeatGeek's special offer. Anybody, whether you're a returning customer or new, can get 10% off of any tickets with my promo code SWISHOUT10. SeatGeek makes it very easy, where they have a system where they rate their tickets on a scale of 1 to 10, where you can literally see what type of deal you're getting. The greener the dots are means you're getting a pretty good bang for your buck, and the orange to red ones, not so much. Also, for caution, every ticket is backed by their buyer guarantee, and SeatGeek is the only site that lets you return your tickets ahead of the event with swaps. So download the SeatGeek app right now, or click the link in my description box below and easily knock off that 10% of that concert, event, game, whatever you want to attend. Do it now, because this offer is only for a limited time only at SeatGeek.com.
Talk to us.
Prices just went up.
Don't talk to us.
5 years ago, I'ma keep it real, we got absolutely bamboozled, like it's not even a joke. I'm not sure if I remember a duo having this much hype and these many expectations accomplishing so little. We know now, Paul George went to Philly, and the experiment is officially over. This duo did nothing. At that time, Kawhi was coming off of an unexpected championship that literally no one saw coming, and Paul George statistically just had the best season of his career. For good reason, it was heavy expectations. It feels like it was ages ago, because the Clippers, they've experimented with so many different players with this one experiment. But I don't want people to forget the team Kawhi and Paul George joined. They didn't pick a slouch of a team that didn't even win 500 games or anything like that. The Clippers were a very good team. That Clippers team had just won 48 games, and they took a fully healthy Golden State Warriors team to 6 games, something nobody did except Houston, who probably should have beaten them. That team wasn't just championship favorites simply because they added Kawhi and Paul George. It looked like you had a team full of very good scrappy players and replaced a rookie Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Danilo Gallinari with a finals MVP and a player that just finished third in MVP voting. Of course they was going to be favorites. In the playoffs, Montrezl Harrell had just averaged 19 points. Lou Williams had just averaged 21 points. Lou Williams was the reigning back-to-back Sixth Man of the Year. Like I said, that team wasn't just favorites because they added 2 superstars. They were favorites because they added 2 superstars to a very complimentary team. But then with said team and with all these experiments, they did absolutely nothing. And to me, the saddest part of all of this is we know, based off the expectations at that time, that team did absolutely nothing, even in a perfect situation in a bubble. Even with them having and experimenting with multiple different good players all over the league, Norman Powell, Montrezl Harrell won Sixth Man of the Year on that team, Robert Covington, James Harden, Russell Westbrook, etc. Even with them having 2 NBA champion head coaches who's both managed superstar teams, even with them having the richest owner in sports willing to pay the craziest luxury tax bills, even with the West being the weakest it was in years right as they assembled that duo. It was called the Battle of LA for a reason. Golden State, Kevin Durant, everything fell apart right for them. Even with all of that, even with how monumental of a failure it was to me and probably you as well, it was still probably the greatest era of Clippers basketball ever. That team was one game away from a conference finals in 2020, and they actually made a conference finals in 2021. Yes, they made it in a very Clippers way without their best player, but they've never done that before. And I want to look at that bubble year in 2020, which was actually their first year together. Yeah, we know they made the conference finals in 2021, but the closest they really came to winning a championship was in that bubble when Kawhi was healthy. Their big excuse, if you listen to Lou Williams, Paul George, anybody talk about it, was we were in a bubble. We were secluded, nobody wanted to be there, and it was very abnormal circumstances, and it was. But to me, it feels like that excuse kind of haunted the rest of their tenure together. Just look at it. That realistically was the perfect situation for that specific team and that specific player, Kawhi. Mind you, Kawhi hasn't played or finished a healthy playoff run since that one moment. Season after that, Kawhi hurt in the playoffs. Season after that, Kawhi hurt for the full season and Paul George. Season after that, Kawhi hurt in the first round. This year, Kawhi hurt in the first round. That was literally their best opportunity. Chris Paul joined the Clippers in 2011 during that lockout year. Never forget, Chris Paul was never supposed to be a Clipper. He was supposed to be a Laker. David Stern basically did that team a favor and vetoed the trade because he didn't want big market teams to take all the stars. Even with that, rest in peace, David Stern, they did absolutely nothing. I'll always bring up this moment because at the time, I'm not gonna lie, I was a mini Clippers fan because I really liked the Chris Paul, Blake Griffin duo. But 2014, second round, I remember they were playing OKC and they were up 2-1 in OKC. They had this lead in this game and somehow they lost. Mind you, if they win this game, they go up 3-1 with game 5 in LA. The following season, this is why I just say they're meant to lose. They had prime position to at least make the finals. Golden State, they had a great year, but they were very young. San Antonio, they just knocked them out in the first round. OKC, Kevin Durant had a Jones fracture in his foot and he was gone. They beat the champion Spurs just to collapse against the Rockets, in which game 6, they had this lead at home. You can't make this stuff up. Since the 2010s, there's been 5 blown 3-1 leads. They have 2 of them with 2 completely different teams, which in my opinion were their 2 best chances to win a championship. In the era in which they had Chris Paul, look at how dominant they were in the regular season. Top 3 team as far as winning percentage. Everybody in that top 5, they're at least top 10 in the playoffs in that exact same category. Everybody except for the damn Clippers. Chris Paul leaves in 2017, Blake Griffin leaves in 2018, and they really didn't even have a long drought. Paul George and Kawhi arrived in 2019. We literally just watched the Boston Celtics win their 18th championship, really based off of the worst trade arguably ever. People can hate the Boston Celtics and their organization, and for some reasons I understand why, but really you should hate the Brooklyn Nets. They traded all of this for an old roster that won less games in the regular season and ultimately 2 more games in the playoffs. All of that for this 1-year old-ass experiment that eventually imploded. Meanwhile, Boston racked up all of their picks from their down years and damn near created what looks to be somewhat of a dynasty. Jason Tatum, say what you want, but now he's the NBA champion and he has the 4th most playoff wins of any player under the age of 27. That was Brooklyn's pick. Jaylen Brown is now a finals MVP and he has the 4th most playoff wins of any player before turning 28. He was Brooklyn's pick. Even through all the dog years of one of the biggest mistakes ever, the Nets still got chosen by 2 of the most special players this game has to offer, and they did absolutely nothing. Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant together, they won 6 playoff games total. Tyrese Halliburton won 8 this year. Jalen Brunson won 7 this year. The youngest first seed ever, OKC, they won 6 this year. With that scary Irish trio that to me would have won a championship had they never gotten injured, they won 13 of their 16 games together in that one season and never played together again. In KD and Kyrie's 2 healthy years together, so basically 1.5 years because Kyrie didn't take the vaccine, 10 more teams won more playoff games than Brooklyn. 4 completely different teams made the conference finals in the East, including Atlanta. It was wide open. A team that at some point had James Harden, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Durant all together in their primes has absolutely nothing to show for it. I will say this. These 2 franchises now, they're moving in 2 completely different directions. The Clippers, they're an absolute shit show if you ask me. They just are. Gave Kawhi, the injured one, an extension mid-season and lost PG. I get it. You probably didn't want to fall under that second apron. But if you're going to give Kawhi an extension, mind you, he's the one that's missing all the playoff games, you might as well double down and give it to Paul George as well. Brought back James Harden out of pure desperation, and to me, they look nothing like a championship team now. Meanwhile, Brooklyn, I'm so happy they embraced their rebuild and flipped Mikal Bridges and not let his stock continue to drop, and they have a lot of draft capital from their mistakes. They actually flipped Kevin Durant into all of this. They didn't lose him for nothing like Paul George. They actually obtained the talent that a Portland, a Washington, a Utah, a Charlotte would dream of, and do nothing but create the biggest letdown what ifs of all time. If you guys like this video, this was just on my mind when I seen the Clippers, how they fell apart, and the Nets simply watching the Celtics win a championship really off of their picks. Like, damn, these little bros, they just can't get it right. I will do a free agency video soon, so stay tuned for that. Turn on my post notifications, do all that great stuff, guys, and until next time, as always, stay tuned.